Let's go to a more fun matchup, Matt. One that has me pretty excited. Duke versus Oral Roberts. Got your Blue Devils laying 6.5. They've gotten a lot of love because of how much better they played of late. They're healthier. But may I remind you, it was against the worst ACC in years.
Right.
It wasn't like they were blowing away some top dominant conference. They got shorthanded Virginia. They got shorthanded Miami when O'Meara went down. Maybe there's some holes to punch in just how well they're playing at this stage. And Oral Roberts is not an underdog you want to take lightly. Everybody shoots on that roster. They've got a true star in Ace Smith, possibly the best player on the floor here. What do you think with your Blue Devils, Matt, laying 6.5?
Yeah, brutal draw for, honestly, both teams. I think Oral Roberts was second weekend caliber, but to catch Duke, I know this is where we disagree. I do think Duke's like a legit top 10, maybe even top 5 team right now, the way they've been playing, even with all the asterisks you want to slap on the recent run. Covered 5 of the last 6, can point to real reasons why they are light and day better, with Lively kind of popping as a legit rim protector. They've kind of balanced the minutes with him and Filipowski really nicely. Proctor is all the way there, the guy I thought we'd see preseason. Roach looks like he's kind of doing the old clutch thing that we saw carry Duke in a couple of games last year, despite all the talent they had. Just a lot of talent. And, while Shire is not, he still has a lot to prove as a coach. He's certainly looked a lot better, especially in some of these tighter games where the pace has slowed down. He's shown he can execute. Pretty important here. I like Oral Roberts' first half, though. I think they're going to struggle to guard the Vanover pick and pop dynamic that Oral Bob is so good at. I think they'll adjust and kind of their talent exerts its advantage in the second half. But first half, I think Oral Roberts kind of similar to my Princeton angle. I like Oral Bob first half.
Duke has not played a top 30 team since November 25th. So all 9 of those wins, they just rattled off. None of them top 30 teams. ACC is weak. But they are probably the best 5 seed right now, the way they're playing. They're playing more like a 2 or a 3, I would say. I'd give you that, Matt. Oral Roberts is the most dangerous 12, though, for my money. They're an old team. They've played together for many years. Asmus and McBride, that's arguably a better backcourt than what Duke has right now.
Relax.
At this age, the current version? What? Wait,
I think it's arguable. It's absolutely arguable.
Yeah. I think
Asmus is the best maybe the best guard on the floor. But I know McBride's good, but come on, he's not better than Proctor.
McBride was a top 100 recruit at Kansas.
I know.
Right
He's got pedigree. He's not better than the other Duke guards. No. I think there's a big drop off.
I think it's arguable.
McBride.
I think it's arguable. Right, Duke is the biggest team in the country. Oral Roberts has Vanover. They have a muscle guy with Patrick Mwamba. Oral Bob has to hit shots. They can definitely do that. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're not going to make stupid mistakes. I think that's key for a giant killer, a team that won't beat itself. The question is, can they keep Duke off the glass? I'm not really sure they can. Duke's offensive rebounding is pretty ridiculous. They do have the more athletic team. This possession count, though, Jim, could be sub 70. It could be a pretty slow game, which would favor Oral Roberts. I can't help but remember Oral Roberts losing to Houston by 38 earlier this season. Perhaps extreme athletes, physicality is a problem, but this Duke team isn't Houston. I want to see 7 for Oral Roberts before I make a bet here, but I lean towards Oral Roberts.
Yeah, I'll probably bet Oral Roberts first to 15, even more narrow than Matt's first half angle. I think that offense is just going to be like, whoa, okay, everybody on this floor can shoot. I helped too far off of Mwamba and he made a 3. I helped too far off of Thompson and he made a 3. It's going to be maybe a blitz to start, but Duke does have the size athleticism to wear them down. Matt, it feels a little like the Duke UNC Wilmington game from 6 years ago, where it was a really fun underdog that everybody was excited to back. And Duke eventually won by 8 and kind of took care of business. I believe covered that game as well.
Yeah, barely they did though, I think. Yeah.
So that scares me off just getting excited about the fun dog here. But I want to narrow it down, like I said, isolate a little bit of an earlier segment and get on the offense of Oral Roberts. We'll see what Duke does long term in that game, though. Next up, Tennessee and Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns getting 10.5 against the Vols. Matthias, I think people want to pick and bet against Tennessee because of Noah Ziegler and Rick Barnes' history in the tournament. Should they be doing so in this game?
You told me not to fall back into the trap of betting a highly power-rated Tennessee while ignoring their execution flaws, which have shown up multiple times in postseason formats. I'm going to be stubborn. I think I'll probably back Tennessee here again. Just a bad matchup for Louisiana. I think this feels like, as we've said, a strength on strength. One game that comes to mind as I continue my random NCAA tournament game precedents, Cal State Fullerton against Purdue a couple years back, where it was Fullerton's awesome on the glass. Okay, well, against Purdue, what's that going to do for you, right? So I think Louisiana, with their size and physicality up front, Tennessee is just the absolute biggest, baddest team physically in the field, arguably. So they negate that. Can they execute on offense? Probably not. I'm going to lay 10.5. They're going to be up 5 late. I'm going to be pissed off that they can't score, but I think Tennessee does advance here. And probably if they're making shots, it should be a blowout, but that's a big if.
Louisiana's going to be a sexy pick here. I'm not so sure. I think it's like the worst matchup possible for them to draw of the 4 seeds. No Ziegler, but there's plenty of talent on Tennessee to get to the second weekend. Louisiana's played one power team all season. That was Texas. They lost by 28 points. Jordan Brown is great, but he's going to be smothered by some really strong players in Tennessee. Maybe Louisiana gets to the line, but they will have trouble scoring inside and attacking the rim. Tennessee's defense is number 2 in the entire country, number 2 in effective field goal percentage. They're just really tough to score on. On the other end, Louisiana's defense is so-so. It's just a huge talent gap between Tennessee and Louisiana. And the biggest point here, Jim, Tennessee blows out inferior competition. That is why they're rated so highly in analytics. They've beaten teams 10 times by 30 or more points this season. 10 times by 30 or more, and one team was 29. So basically 11 teams they've beaten by 30. I think they can do it again. I lean towards the Vols.
Yeah, I wish Louisiana was better defensively. That would be what would get me excited about this matchup. Tennessee gives up a ton of threes. No one has made them all year. Hello, SEC. That's normal. But Louisiana can shoot. They don't prefer to. They're pretty low ranked in 3-point attempt rate, but they make threes. And so if they get hot here, perhaps they have a chance to compete going against a team that allows that kind of frequency. But yeah, like the ideal matchup with Louisiana was, okay, you have this star big man, Jordan Brown, former 5-star recruit. Now you have to go against a really stout front line. Plasich, Kamwa, going to be hurling bodies at him in there. That isn't ideal for the Cajuns. I'm not sold on where to go with this one, but I'm mostly scared of the way Tennessee. I know they've lost early in tournaments, but they beat Longwood by 32 last year. They blew out Wright State a few years back, just absolutely dominated. I think they're more of a susceptible to power conference competition that can match athleticism and knock down triples. So I'm going to sit that one out.
I'm pretty sure we all thought Longwood would compete last year with Tennessee.
Yep.
And it was never close. It was never close.
That was, I think I bet like under 34.5 biggest blowout last year. And it got close. This was one of them that got super close.
Let's get right into the matchups here. Michigan State versus USC. Mr. McKeon, what do you do first? I have been on USC all year. I think this team is real. Our boss, Jeff Goodman, thinks Michigan State's going to the Final Four.
Yeah, he's right.
One of us will be dead wrong. Hopefully he's wrong and I'm right. And those who believe in this USC train, which I have been chugging along since the start of the year, profit accordingly. But let's hear your Michigan State stance. I believe you're more of a Sparty believer on this side.
Well, yeah, we'll see here. Second most boring matchup of the first round behind Boise and Northwestern. These teams are almost identical in metrics. USC 43rd in offense, Sparty 41st. USC 48th in defense, Sparty 40. They're both solid. They're not elite. They're good, not great. USC's length might bother Sparty's guards. They have the slight athletic edge. Izzo in March, ? He's inconsistent, Jim. The numbers show it. He's inconsistent. And heck, Andy Enfield, pretty good tournament resume he's got over on his side. USC to Elite 8, of course, Florida Gulf Coast. I think Michigan State has a higher upside of these teams with the way they can shoot the ball. But my gut is telling me to lean towards the dog. USC +2. I got nothing here quite yet. The coaching and the guard play, I lean towards Michigan State. But I secretly also think A.J. Hoggard is kind of a head case, and that kind of showed through in the Big Ten tournament, Jim.
Yeah, well, he was like getting lectured by Izzo and like rolling his eyes and like,
ridiculous
coach,
behavior.
All right, coach, whatever. Yeah. Like, dude, it's a Hall of Famer. Maybe give him a little bit of respect, Mr. Junior leader. Matt, I'm hoping you have the data queued up on both of their records in the tournament, so I'll defer that to you. But I do trust the guard play a lot more on Michigan State. Maybe that's unfair slight of Boogie Ellis and Reese Dixon Waters and Drew Peterson. And Enfield's been so good in the tournament that I think I've faded him a bunch and have lost money doing so. So I kind of want to just sit this one out because I don't feel strongly about it. But Kai, darn it, that's not what we do when we're in Vegas. So I'm going to eventually have to pick a side. I'm waiting for one of you to really sell me. So Matt, give me your best Trojan pitch.
Andy Enfield 10-2 against the spread in the NCAA tournament since 2005. Tom Izzo 22-22. So yeah, I mean, I know that's been more rooted in his recent. He hasn't been bad recently, but he's not been as insanely awesome as I think he was when they had like every kid who's played for me went to a Final Four over the 4-year cycle period.
Yep.
I mean, the Middle Tennessee Giddy Potts first round debacle still burns brightly in my memory bank. So I think this version of Michigan State, though, is improving rapidly. And I like that they're kind of leaning into like, wow, we're kind of fun and offensive and NBA pace and spacey with Hogarth and Walker and Hauser making shots. And up front, we're not the usual Izzo team. I just think that matchup's poor against USC, who does have that size and length up front. Not like Isaiah Mobley type size, but still plenty of length. I expect to see Enville work in some multiple types of defenses. It's a great microcosm of can a Big Ten team adapt to a weird changing style that the Pac-12 presents, which has been kind of the impetus of the Pac-12's recent success. So
Pac-12 actually really good ATS in the tournament.
Right.
Going back to, is it like choked away a cover last year against Davidson and then did not cover against Duke? 2 years ago, choked away a cover against UCLA, choked away a win against UCLA that enabled the Bruins to go to the Final Four. Like this has not been a foolproof postseason team the way many perceive. And strangely, Enfield has been nearly foolproof.
Yep. So yeah, just a reminder, make sure we underscore the numbers here. Michigan State laying 2, the total 137 has not budged on side or total. Another mid-major versus high major showdown here. Vermont versus Marquette, the Golden Eagles. I mean, at what point do we stop doubting this team? I think we're all past that at this point. However, Vermont's had plenty of tournament success, Jim. They're catching 11 games in Columbus there. So a little bit closer to Marquette there in the Midwest roots. Any angle for you in this one?
I like Marquette. I think this version of Vermont feasted on the America East and was really not that good in the non-conference. Marquette's defense is trending up, and the offense, we don't really have any questions about that. Haslametrics has he calls it a paper tiger factor, where it's teams that play better against worse competition or better against better competition. And Vermont is super high in terms of they smash bad teams. And that was mostly just thorough domination of the America East. Impressive run through that tournament, yes, but I don't love this current roster stepping up in class. It's very reliant on Dylan Penn and some not super athletic shooting. I think Marquette can roll here, Kai. I like the Golden Eagles.
It's kind of a similar situation to Colgate, Texas, except Vermont's offense is not nearly as good as Colgate's. Can't be taken lightly. They can play. They're a really smart team, and they lost to USC by just 2 this season in the non-conference. So they've shown they compete with power competition. They're a top 10 ball handling team, turnover rate. They do not make careless mistakes. I'm just not sure how much that matters against the length and athleticism we've seen from Marquette and their pressure capabilities. It's way more than anything they've seen in the America East this season. Vermont also cannot take advantage of Marquette's lack of top end size. They can't offensive rebound. Those are Marquette's 2 biggest weaknesses. Vermont's not exploiting that. I think the Golden Eagles score all day long. They're top 10 offense in the country. We talked about their connectivity on that end. Few teams in the country move the ball better. Matt, I think they slice and dice Vermont's D. It's just not the same caliber of athlete on these teams. There's a gap in talent. I do lean towards Marquette. I kind of see the market leaning towards Vermont a little bit. We'll see where the line ends up. This will probably be a day of bet for me, and it'll probably be the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, I think it's one of the least talented teams Becker's had at Vermont, but I think it just shows what a great coach he is, that they're still a fringe top 100 team. They won 15 straight games, and here they are, kind of doing what Colgate's doing, dominating a lesser conference. If they were built, I guess I like how they're built this year because they have been playing slower. Becker showed a little bit of a willingness to play faster with some athletes in recent years. I think this team, if they had a guy like Anthony Lamb, like a true star that could, really rise against a power conference, I'd be more comfortable backing them here. But I think the talent gap's too wide, even against Marquette, who's not loaded with 5 stars or anything. I just don't see in a way that they really give Marquette many issues. If anything, I think Vermont's going to do more of the chess reactive toggling with their rotations to match with what Marquette brings forth. All right, another play-in game we'll talk very quickly because I think this is kind of a no-brainer. Purdue versus the winner of Texas Southern or Fairleigh Dickinson. Projected spread going to be Purdue minus 22, low 20s seems to be just an average of what you're going to see here. I don't really care. I think Purdue wins by a lot. Purdue first half would be my lean, regardless of matchup outcome. Any takes, guys, are strong on either Fairleigh Dickinson or Texas Southern?
I think it could be like 30-point spread. Both these teams are like close to 300 in KenPom. Purdue easily. Edie's going to have like 40 and 30. The pressure might spook the Boilers a little bit, but I don't see them being close to Purdue.
Really like the first half angle, Matt. I think Edie just comes out, dominates. Maybe they don't play him that much in the second half. And there could be some sort of backdoor angle, especially if the spread is really, really inflated, which it probably should be because of how poorly both Texas Southern and FDU rank. But I think first half, with the quick turnaround, the travel that the 16 seed winner will have to do, playing Wednesday and then playing against Purdue on Friday, I'm into that first half Purdue.
Johnny Jones 5-2 against the spread in the NCAA tournament. I don't have the breakdown of. I think most of those 5 were playing game wins. But still, Jones has been a good coach. He's clearly dominates the SWAC tournament. I think he actually has a right to maybe give Purdue a run for their money, but I'm just not seeing it. A very intriguing. We'll call this the Bryce Hopkins Bowl. Kentucky against Providence. Ed Cooley versus John Calipari. I think one of the more covered games of the first round for sure, despite its relatively lackluster seeding implications here. But Jim, I'll go to you. Kentucky laying 4, total at 145. This one's also in Greensboro. I think the line's about right. I don't really trust either team, to be honest, at this point. It's one of those games where it's like, how can you bet this one really confidently? So I don't have any action here. What's your lean?
Yeah, Kentucky, you got to figure out who's playing, who's healthy. That's going to be something we kind of figure out as this week develops. But I do like Ed Cooley as an underdog. I know they didn't quite get there with UConn. I think they ended up coming back and pushing if you had a really good number, but did not cover most numbers in that one. But I like that they showed signs of life, Kai. That's a very positive thing. I was worried that after the Seton Hall game, then you get into the tournament, you get blown out again. Like maybe this team had just rolled over or Ed Cooley's half a foot out the door or something. But that battle that they showed late against UConn gives me a little more hope. And of course, there's the Hopkins angle of, how dare you not play me last year? Look how good I am now. I lean towards Providence on the number, at least getting this into like a one possession game.
And this spread might not be done moving towards Kentucky. I already see it at 4.5 in another book, and it started 3.5. Ed Cooley's a dog, man.
Give me 5,
I agree.
Please.
If it gets to 5, I'm taking Providence. Kentucky, if Case and Wallace gets announced in, I think you see the spread keep moving for Kentucky. They're a dangerous team, obviously, and Providence just snuck into the field. Kentucky's not going to get beat on the glass. Usually that's an edge for the Friars, but obviously Kentucky has a lot of size to throw at them, combat them. Providence interior defense a little bit weak. Kentucky should probably have an advantage there. If all healthy, yeah, I think Kentucky moves on. But again, I trust Ed Cooley more than I trust John Calipari. And like Jim said, if we see 5, I'm taking Providence. If it's below that, game time decision on who I take.
Yeah, the one concerning thing, Providence not good away from home. Like all of their big wins have been at the AMP. They're 6-9 away from home. If you filter Bart Torvik since February 1st, they're 92nd. Like they just have not been good of late. That does spook me. But at 5, hopefully it gets there. I would take it. It's 2 on KenPom, by the way. So the market is taking a stance on Kentucky.
Oh, no, not this game. I can't. This game makes me so mad here. FAU against Memphis. Like my Owls completely screwed by the bracket, by the selection committee to beat UAB by 1,000,000 points. To get no credit for that, just kind of goes to show that conference tournament championship, especially the second weekend, don't mean anything. Regardless, they are catching 2.5 against a red hot Memphis team who just took Houston without Marcus Sasser to the woodshed, Jim. I haven't officially bet my Owls because I do think this Memphis team is real and the matchup's tough. But I think because I've put all of my reputational chips in on the Owls, I'll probably bet them when I get to Vegas with you guys. But it's not something I'm going to endorse as a pragmatic prognosticator to those out there betting.
Yeah, I love both these teams. I've made a little list of teams I wanted to bet on in the tournament, and I only got to 3. It was just teams like, okay, between coach and the way they're playing, all this stuff, I want to be on them. And FAU and Memphis are both on there, and Penn State.
Oh, that's so tough. That's so tough.
So like, great. Oh, they're playing each other. Fantastic. That's real fun. So I have a really, really hard time with this game because I think they're both outstanding. FAU can maybe spread them out a little bit with how much they space the floor and they're shooting, but Memphis is rolling. The athleticism, the physicality. Kendrick Davis appears to be healthy. There's always a risk he rolls that ankle again. It's happened like 5 times this season, but you can't count on that. That'd be a tough thing to bake into the handicap. Kai ultimately probably lean towards getting the 2.5 or laying them. But I bet against Memphis last year in an 8-9 game. It didn't go well. Why did I bet Boise? You idiot, Jim. So I have not decided on this one. It's going to be a late call.
I was hoping to see 3, and I'm seeing 2 now in places. I think it's going to go towards the other way, which sucks. Hey, smart market. Yeah, shame on the committee for making this an 8-9 game. It might be the best game of the opening round. KenPom team's 19-26, and yet we're in an 8-9 game here. FAU has shown it can beat power teams. They beat Florida this year. They beat North Texas and UAB, who are basically power team caliber. Both teams are really experienced. FAU has that connectivity factor that I love. Is there an answer for Kendrick Davis? I'm not sure they can stay in front one-on-one, but they play great team defense, and they're very sound inside. 11th in the country in 2-point field goal percentage allowed, can force Memphis to be shooters. Memphis can shoot a bit, but it's not what they prefer. Memphis's D, obviously very solid. FAU, very good ball handlers, won't turn it over easily, and they're used to athletic defenses. They've seen a lot of that in Conference USA. FAU can stroke it. Memphis allows a ton of threes. I think that's a little matchup angle there. I lean towards FAU. Again, I really wanted 3. Doesn't look like we're going to get 3. I'll probably end up taking 2.5 in Vegas, Matt.
Here's my word of advice to Penny Hardaway. The problem is he doesn't actually do this, is you need to post up one of your bigs against FAU's fourth guard. That's how you beat FAU. I saw it up close and personal with Isaiah Crawford of Louisiana Tech. They basically play 4 out and 1 in. And if you can post up that fourth guard, that quasi 4-man, you can have success. Problem is Memphis, looking at shot quality, 5th percentile in terms of post-up frequency this year. So it's just not really in Penny's bag. Kind of bodes well for my Owls. Makes me a little more confident that when I blindly back them, I won't be taking a fool's errand there. So let's go Owls. Get it done, Dusty.
They can. Like DeAndre Williams could.
Right, they should be able to. Exactly.
But
right.
Yeah, if they're not going to run that, then it's a problem.
All right, Kai, we're talking Kansas State, Montana State next. I have I get bad goosebumps thinking about what Montana State did or didn't do last year in the first round against Texas Tech. Completely outclassed. Now, that Texas Tech team, I think, was more potent and more dangerous than this Kansas State team. That could be disrespecting Kansas State, so apologies. Do you see any shades of that repeating this year, or is this Montana State team giving more confidence than that last year debacle?
Yeah, it is kind of scary. I've seen a lot of people like Montana State here, and I kind of want to as well. I feel like they compete, but the spread's low, man. 8 points is not a lot. And we were all over Montana State last year, and they got destroyed. They also lost to Oregon by 30 this season. They've certainly been playing better as of late, and they have a great duo. Battle and Bello is a fantastic duo. It is a team mostly of upperclassmen. I think they will get to the line at least. They're 5th nationally in free throw attempt rate. K-State 300th in free throw attempt rate allowed. But K-State's clearly more talented. They're skilled offensively. And I think they're fine with physicality with Keontae Johnson, who should also, by the way, live at the line. Like other mid-majors that are dangerous, Montana State is built like a power team. They can defend top 75 defense, and that's definitely projectable. Jim, I guess I lean towards Montana State, but if it gets much lower than 8, I'm probably going to end up taking Kansas State because I think this team's being a little bit ignored right now by the masses.
Yeah, potentially. We talked about how the first time you see K-State with Noel and Johnson, it's really hard to figure out. Tang is a great coach. Mm-hmm. That's an issue, but I think this is a much better matchup for Montana State than last year with Texas Tech. Texas Tech was one of the best paint rim defenses in the entire country. You just didn't score in the paint. Kansas State, way more vulnerable there. Montana State, one of the highest post usage offenses in the country. Play through Bello. They play through Asabor. Those guys, I think, will be able to score, get to the free throw line. Don't think of Kansas State as a super intimidating rim defense. And then Caleb Fuller is actually like a fantastic matchup for Keontae Johnson as far as a mid-major option. He's a strong, well-built wing. He's very physical, probably get in foul trouble, but I do think they can at least battle and not get totally outclassed there. And Darius Brown was the defensive player of the year in this league, and you got him to throw it Noel. That helps a little bit as well. So, Matt, Montana State, best bet for me, +8. I just think the matchup is so much better than it was last year, and they do have some tournament experience after getting smoked in that game.
I agree, and I think Sprinkle's a great coach. We talked about the Horizon shortcomings in this tournament. Big Sky, 5-12 against the spread since 2007. You take away the Eastern Washington cover by a nose. Was it 2 years ago against Kansas? I think we were all very much involved in that game as anti-Kansas with Ewash. Before that, the last time a Big Sky team has covered was 2014, Weber State. I don't know if there's anything to that. Could be circumstantial. However, it does feel like the Big Sky tends to be an offensive-minded team that gets kind of exposed when the tournament, So I don't know. Something to keep an eye on there. And when you talk about how they are built to play up to a power conference, I like when my mid-majors are built differently, maybe. They provide more of a wrench as opposed to back to my point, that's strength on strength. But we'll see. I'm on the Montana State Bobcats as well. I was worried, though, as I looked closer at it, Jim. It won't matter, though. Best bet's a lock. Follow it.
Good.